I can't do two things. There we go. So with that, as we mentioned, it is the first week of session, and I know things are just getting started with State of the State, and then, of course, the special session that got called the day after. So with that, David, I'm going to turn it over to you. For those of you who don't know, David is the Senior Vice President, Governmental Affairs at the Business Council of Alabama, and great friend to all of our chambers, and we're excited to have you with us again this year to talk us through what session is going to look like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to do these updates and work for you guys and the members that you represent, the businesses throughout the state. Real quick, I think it's important that we go over sort of the dynamics of the legislature, this session coming into a new quadrennium. It is like the first day of school again, particularly for these 37 new legislators that we have. 6 of those are in the Senate, 31 of those in the House, and so that's we look at that as opportunity. These are new legislators, and that's an opportunity for us to educate them on issues that are of importance to the business community. Even all those incumbents, issues are always evolving. And they change from day to day. And so we're also working hard to make sure we keep those legislators educated and informed as much as possible as well. So right now, where we are in the legislative session, we gavelled in on Tuesday, March the 7th of this week. And then the governor held her State of the State address Tuesday evening, and where she called the legislature into a special session on Wednesday. A couple of bills that were introduced. One, obviously, the priority bill for the governor is the allocating a bill that would allocate the ARPA funds, and also another piece of legislation that would retire the debt that we owed for the Alabama Trust Fund, which the state of Alabama was required to settle that debt no later than 2033, and so we're 10 years ahead there. So that's good. So fiscally sound bill to retire that debt. But one thing I do want to mention, we go back and we talk about the number of new legislators. It's an interesting dynamic that I haven't faced since I've been doing this for 16 years or so. Is that we have a significant high number of freshmen and sophomores, particularly in the House. We've got approximately 64 sophomores and freshmen in the House, along with a lot of leadership changes in the House. And we have approximately 17 sophomores and freshmen in the Senate. So what that tells you is there's a lot of institutional knowledge that has departed from the House in particular. And so, that's like I said earlier, we look at that as opportunity, and continuing to work with those new members. But I'll tell you, I'm excited for the most part by all of the new members that are coming in. A lot of very talented individuals, several of which are from the business community that we're excited about working with. See Anna there, her husband Jay Hovey is one of those, and he is going to do a fantastic job, and we're really looking forward to working with him and his colleagues. But first, so she called him into special session Tuesday night. They came in Wednesday, dropped in the ARPA bill and also the bill to remove the debt from the Alabama Trust Fund. The ARPA bill would allocate approximately $1.1 billion in federal funds that was made available to the state through the American Rescue Plan Act. So ARPA, that's where we get that from. And that passed Congress in 2021. As you know, it also, so that bill, just high level, includes funding for broadband expansion, water and sewer infrastructure improvements, and also a allocation to support our healthcare systems for communities across the state. This is the final round of ARPA funding that the legislature will approve. So this is it. No more. This is the last round. No more federal funds for ARPA as we go forward. Anybody that wants to, Paige, we can our capital briefing. I would encourage you to sign on to receive that. For instance, this capital briefing, Caroline Franklin, who is new to our staff, she drafted all of the in-depth allocations and how those allocations are going to be, those revenues are going to be distributed in more detail than what I just gave you. But there's certain amounts that goes to hospitals and nursing homes, certain amount that goes to veterans hospitals, certain amount that goes to mental health programs and services, et cetera. So we would encourage you to sign on to receive those capital briefings. Those will come out every Friday. And so it will sort of give you a recap of what took place throughout that week, and then also what we're projecting in the week ahead. So just to sort of give you a timeline, House Bill 1, the ARPA funding bill by Representative Rex Reynolds, who is the brand new general fund budget chair in the House, who did a fabulous job yesterday in committee. That has passed out of committee, as well as the debt retirement bill passed out of House and Senate committee. In the Senate, it's sponsored by Senator Greg Albritton from Atmore. And so those bills have passed and will be on the ARPA bill, and the debt retirement bill will both be on the House floor Tuesday of next week. We're not anticipating any problems. Of course, anything can happen, but we anticipate that bill passing the House on Tuesday, being transmitted to the Senate, where it will also get its first reading, and should be in Senate committee on Wednesday and the Senate floor next Thursday. So that sort of gives you the timeline for that. I will tell you, we have got our legislative priority, el numero uno priority, is reauthorization and improvements to the existing economic development incentives that we have here in Alabama. Those being the Jobs Act and the Growing Alabama Incentive. Those are currently being fully vetted and drafted, so that we make sure that whenever we do release that product, that it's in its best shape, best form, ready to pass and ready to move. I would encourage you, while I'm thinking about it, once we release those, we can get you any talking points that you need, but we would certainly appreciate you contacting your representatives, your senators, and encouraging them to vote for this package. We are incentives is just the name of it's just the game right now. I mean, it's what other states are doing, and if we were for some reason not able to reauthorize these, Alabama would be at a significant competitive disadvantage, particularly with our neighboring states even, but all over the Southeast and the country. I mean, we're in the game when we're competing against the state of Washington or Wisconsin, and other states throughout the country. When we're recruiting New York, Pennsylvania, we're bringing businesses that these other states are competing against us and bringing them to Alabama. So we're winning right now, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to reauthorize these, but not only reauthorize them, sharpen them, and make them the best that they can be, so that when we're out there competing on the field of economic development incentives, we've got a strong toolbox that we can utilize when meeting with those potential investors and companies that are going to move to Alabama. We're looking at 4 pieces of legislation. The first one would be renewing and enhancing the Alabama Jobs Act and Growing Alabama Incentive. Another one dealing with targeted site development. Another one that would deal with the growth of the innovation economy and Alabama small businesses. And another piece of legislation, the 4th piece, would be dealing with transparency. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide information that the public can go and look at anytime they want to, because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers' dollars, and they need to be abreast and aware of every dime that's being spent, and the statistics that are associated with it, because they are statistics for particularly the Jobs Act and Growing Alabama incentive are staggering. I mean, we are the ROI, return on investment, to the state, to the taxpayer, is significant. And so we want to make sure that we keep that going. As y'all know, the Jobs Act and Growing Alabama was initially passed back in 2015. So it's been on the roll for 7 years. The impact to date has been tremendous. The Jobs Act has brought in over $22 billion in new capital investments and over 40,000 new job commitments to the state, but it needs to be enhanced. I don't anticipate a cap being removed. I think there may be a modest increase, but currently it's a $350 million program. And currently, after about the third year and into the fourth year, we're bumping up against the cap, which puts us at that competitive disadvantage when we're trying to sell to other states. So I think that's something that you'll see that's debated this session, as far as what that increase should look like. And the Jobs Act does not only help in urban areas of the state, but there's also a significant rural component as well. Okay. So, at the end of the day, Alabama's a rural state. It just is. We've got a lot of rural areas throughout the state, and it also addresses Alabama's current lack of large available industrial sites. So that's going to be one component. You've got to have quality sites. You've got to have quality infrastructure for those sites to entice those companies, to go to those regions of the state. And, workforce is also a serious component to that. And I know that's something you guys hear every single day from all of your members, no matter what their area of expertise is. Workforce is a challenge. But going back to the Jobs Act and the investment that it's made in rural portions of our state, in 2022 alone, there were 10 projects that were targeted in rural counties throughout the state. And there was approximately a $980 million investment in those 10 projects that produced almost 1,800 direct jobs in rural areas of the state. And, every job in rural Alabama equates to approximately 15 jobs in urban parts of the state. Okay. So every job in rural Alabama really counts and can really make a significant contribution in those areas. But site development is critical. All of our contiguous states, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, have made either recently enacted or renewed funding for their site development programs. And so to keep Alabama competitive among our neighboring states, we need to reinvest in industry site development programs. So that I think you'll see that site development being a significant component to this overall package of bills that's going to be introduced really soon. Another component will be strengthening the state's innovation economy through the transfer of tax credits for tech accelerators and support for underrepresented businesses to the Innovate Alabama program. So that's going to be a component. And then we talked a little bit earlier about transparency. So that will probably, I believe, as of right now, the way conversations are going, that'll probably be a standalone bill. And so we will, and that's certainly an important component as well. So I think you'll, obviously we got to get through this special session. As y'all all know, we've got 29 legislative days to go, last Tuesday being the first one, but the special session does not count toward legislative working days. So that's kind of on pause right now while we're in a special session. It does burn up calendar days though. So that 105 calendar days, it does eat into that, I believe. And and William can correct me, but it's mid-June, probably, I think around June 17th is the last day that the legislature can meet unless it goes into a special session, which I don't anticipate that. So right now we've got 100+ bills that have been introduced in the House, and those bills were either pre-filed or introduced on Tuesday. So 100+ total. William, I think there's probably 106, 107 House bills and about half that number that's been introduced in the Senate. But they cannot. How many we got, William?
In the Senate, it's about 100, or no, excuse me, in the House, it's about 110.
Okay.
And in the Senate, you're correct, it was about half that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, William. And William does such a great job in monitoring all these bills that get introduced, and Caroline has jumped right in there too. And so we could not. They play a very integral role in any success that we have at the legislature. A lot of work goes on that people don't see. So they do a great job with that. So we've got that number of bills that's been introduced. We are currently going through every one of those pieces of legislation. But when we come back on into regular session, I believe the date's March 21st, you can bet there's going to be a significant amount of bills that get introduced on that day, because they've just been compiling during this special session period. So we'll be ready for that. Hopefully this legislative package on incentives will roll out pretty soon after we get back from a special, so that remains to be seen. Just a lot of conversation around those, a lot of moving parts. And so but that'll be our priority as soon as we get back from special session, is moving those incentives bills through. Obviously, a lot of conversation around education, school choice, is something that's polling well. We don't have a dog in that fight per se right now, but from an education standpoint, where we get engaged is workforce, career tech programs, things around those types of issues. But I do anticipate education being an issue that's going to suck up a lot of bandwidth this session. I also anticipate the anti-vaccine mandate bill coming back. So y'all remember a couple of special sessions ago, that's something that we fought really hard against, because at the end of the day, it just opens up frivolous. It's a mandate on employers, and it opens up frivolous lawsuits, opportunities for businesses to be sued. And so we're not for that either. So we will be monitoring that very closely, and if it's dropped, we will oppose it. So we'll keep you posted on that. And those are the types of issues that we can really work with Paige and you guys to help us, when we need to contact legislators and really try to flip the switch on that grassroots component that you guys are so valuable in providing. And outside of that, we'll see what happens. But like I said, a lot going on, a lot of new legislators that campaigned on a lot of new things. And so we'll be keeping an eye on, different pieces of legislation that are introduced, and keep you guys posted. Paige, that's kind of a rundown of the incentives package and what we think that's going to look like. And also sort of the issues we're anticipating, and then sort of where we are with the special session currently. So I'm happy to expand on anything that we've discussed or answer any questions.
So David, real quick, I know that particularly, and I think this is important for the group to hear, one of the main reasons that the economic incentive package is so critical is because it does sunset in July, correct? This is not something that can be kicked down the road.
That's correct. Great point. It does sunset, and I believe we will be proposing an additional 5-year sunset to 2028. Okay. So yes, this is, and I mean, may step on some toes here, but I think the sunset is good to have that in there because it forces everybody back to the table and it forces us to take a hard look at these incentives and, you know, what's working, what's not, how can we improve them, what needs to be done, you know, because I mean, the types of companies, for instance, that we recruit could change. I mean, you know, right now we're heavy automotive, but that could change to data centers, you know, being a priority to recruit, or, you know, innovation tech company, you know. And so we need to make sure that we're going back, because that's always evolving, the types of companies that we recruit to Alabama. And so how can we modify these existing programs to make sure that we're, you know, that Commerce has all the tools that they need in their toolbox for us to be a real competitor with these popular and changing and evolving companies that we're recruiting.
Yeah. Hey, David, one other question that I had, and maybe for the group, during the governor's state of the state, and then the next morning she signed her first executive order, which was around the red tape reduction. Do we know what kind of any specifics around that, what that's going to look like? Because that could affect a lot of our, will affect, hopefully, a lot of our businesses and industries.
Yes. And so she signed Executive Order 735 to cut red tape for citizens and businesses. And she signed that on, I believe, on Wednesday. And so that we will get you more information on that. But yes, it's supposed to cut, you know, red tape for citizens and businesses. So we will certainly, that is actually, and Caroline drafted a good piece on that for our newsletter. Hold on one second. Reduce the red tape citizens and businesses must navigate by replacing a moratorium on new rulemaking by executive branch agencies and establishing goals for the reduction in discretionary regulatory restrictions on citizens and businesses contained in the Alabama Administrative Code. And it's going to reduce those restrictions by 25%. So she's basically requiring her state agencies to reduce red tape by coming up with creative ways within each department to reduce those you know, government red tape by 25%. So that's really encouraging.
It is encouraging. And I think that's a role that our chambers can play in helping their businesses know what those are, what's happening, and that communication once that gets rolling. And I know it's new, having just been announced Wednesday, but probably definitely want to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, you know, sometimes the best thing for businesses that the government can do is just get out of the way and leave us alone, you know. And, you know, somebody asked me, you know, hey, you know, we get asked all the time, you know, hey, what are y'all going to be pushing this session? What are you working on? And we're like, well, the incentives package is really important. I was like, but at the end of the day, leave us alone. You know, we don't want government mandates. We don't want frivolous lawsuits. We don't want, you know, we want to not just survive, we want to thrive. And right now that's what we're doing. And the state's reaping the benefits. I mean, look at our budgets. You look at our budgets right now, which is always a good indicator of how business is doing, because if the ETF is up, that means people are spending money. And if they're spending money, they're making money. And so, you know, we've got a $2.3 billion surplus. That means our economy is killing it, which means the business community is doing excellent. And so we just want to, you know, be left alone and just keep that going. And as y'all know, I mean, sometimes it sounds easy, but it's not always, y'all have heard me say this, it's not always about what you pass, it's what you kill. I mean, there are some, you know, when you get 1,200 plus bills introduced in a legislative session and only, you know, 100 plus of those pass, that means that's a lot of bills that are really bad. And so we got to make sure that no bad bills pass the legislature and create unintended consequences on businesses or anything that's going to be of detriment to the business community. But yeah, I feel good about where we are. I think we're in, you know, I think we're in really good shape. We've got a really good process in place. We've got a fabulous staff that shows up every day with the goal of doing everything they can for the business community. And, you know, you've got to have that drive and that heart, because when it's 11:30 and there's a filibuster going on in the House at 11:30 at night, and you're missing baseball games and softball games, or a date with your spouse or whatever, it's you got to be willing to suck it up and hang in there and be motivated, and we've got a staff that's ready to do that. We've got a really good process in place for when first readings are introduced, when bills are introduced, making sure we've got the eyes on it that need to be on it to give us direction on what we need to do to stop a bill, amend a bill, support a bill, etc. So and I want you guys, please don't hesitate to our page, feel free to send anybody to us if anybody's got questions on legislation, or if they see something on the news or whatever. We're happy to take those calls and help out any way we can.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, David. Does anyone have a question for David before I do some last minute catch up here?
My question was exactly what you asked, Paige, about the red tape bill. I posted it on our website, and that's a big deal. And so just wanted to know those details. So as those come out more, I'd like to definitely be able to pass that along in our newsletters.
Yeah, and feel free, sign up for our capital briefings, and anything you want to pull out of there and copy, paste, plug in it, feel free to do that.
And that's a
Or
great.
if you want to just forward it, whatever's easier.
That's great. I know Dean Mitchell down in Dothan, when he was down there, he would cut and paste and pull out, and he's like, I looked really great from it. But it's true. And I will make sure that I have given Kimberly the most up-to-date, our most up-to-date membership list. We've had a few changes, and then that way, typically you guys will all get plugged in to get the membership newsletter that you guys send out that's got great information and highlights on businesses and members, and then the capital briefings. And David, you guys are still doing the text sign up, is that correct? And that's to get texts as well throughout session?
Yes, that is correct. So we've got a program where you can sign up, and you'll receive notifications if we need to mobilize, and it is only if we pull that trigger, it's because we need you. So it's not you're not going to get 10 text messages a week or notifications a week, but you can sign up for that, and there will be a pre-drafted message that you could just send to your respective senators and House members. And so we would love for you to sign up for that. But yeah, go to our website, sign up for Capital Briefing, and there will be a section in there where you can sign up for that.
Yeah. Carla, let's make sure that when we do a recap of this capital briefing that we include links to all of that. So you guys will have that directly when you get our newsletter. So we're coming up just at 30 minutes, and I definitely want to be respectful of everyone's time. But just in closing, I want to give a plug as well for those of you who are not in Montgomery, but around the state. Every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., the team downstairs at BCA has Tuesday morning briefings. The governor kicked them off this week, and I think next week is Speaker Ledbetter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. Speaker
Ledbetter. So tune in. Those are, I believe, live on Facebook. Always great information. Always great to hear from our leadership every week. So please do tune in. And I think the room's typically pretty full, but if you're here in Montgomery, you can stand in the back with me at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays for that. And then we will continue our capital briefings. And I encourage you, if you see some of your fellow chamber execs around, please encourage them to join us every other Friday for as long as we need to be here through June, I guess. We will do capital briefings here with David and the team, and just appreciate the communication and the openness and willingness to share. And we will we'll be there through this session, which, from what I hear, this will be my first session of a new quadrennial. From what I hear, it can usually be the most
controversial. Right. They usually are. Yep.
Particularly with so much new leadership. So anyway, If no one has any questions, David, again, thank you so much for what you do every day, and to all of our leadership around the state. Thanks for being involved in this process. It's critical for our members and our businesses and for our chambers, because we live and die by the success of our businesses. So with that, Carla, is there anything else that I need? For those of you who don't know, this is Carla Roper. She's our new VP of Operations here at CCAA, and glad to have her on the team. So, David, have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for the
All
kind
right.
words. We've got a great staff. We couldn't do it without
Yep.
them.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks.